Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of the Bobby Bones Show.
Rock and Review is so pleased to bring a singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and also a producer, John Salaway. John, thanks for doing the show.
Hey, brother. Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be with you.
You know, I always stay caught up with you, John, and I've seen you play around town and everything like that here in Nashville. But you got a brand new album that came out this past April, Salvation. And, you know, listening to it, I really enjoy all the tracks. And you certainly give a nod to your influences. I think my personal favorite on there, though, is Letting Go.
Oh, thank you. That is actually my favorite, too. Yeah, and I've been getting a lot of great feedback on that one. It's just a great heartfelt message that they put out there, and I'm really proud of it.
Well, you know, the whole album, you know, you've certainly seen a progression, you know, in your albums over the years from your first release through this new one with Salvation. But I got to bring up, John, you got a few heavy hitters coming in, you know, on this album from the Foo Fighters, from Smashing Pumpkins. Let's talk about this. How did you get all these great artists to come in and work on your album with you?
Oh, that was such a blessing. Well, they've been friends of mine for a few years, and that's where the shutdown last year created an opportunity because all these great artists were not on tour. So I just reached out. I'm like, well, hey, I know you're doing the same thing I am. We're just kind of hanging out and, you know, writing and recording and just trying to figure out what to do next. And I said, would you guys like to play on my new record? And they all said, sure, we'd love to. And it was just a nice thing to get to do that. We did it all remotely. So technology was a huge blessing, you know, like everyone, they recorded at their studios and I recorded at my studio, and then we sent tracks back and forth and mixed it afterwards. And it was really a blessing to be able to do that.
Well, thank goodness with the technology, but I mean, when you have people like, you know, from Cage the Elephant and everything else, it's like going, I'm like, wow, John really pulled in some big players this last year during the pandemic. You know, like you said, since you were able to use technology and make this happen. But I can tell you from listening to the album, you really can't tell any of it was done remotely. It sounds like any album you would hear out of just one studio here in Nashville.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was definitely the goal. I'm glad to hear that. I did most of the tracks at my own studio where I'm at right now. And I did like the drums, bass, guitars, and piano, mostly myself. And then I would ask like really great instrumentalists to play on top of that, you know, so they would do the solos and the icings on the cake, like the organ and lead guitar and stuff like that. So it was a really nice collaborations. I had a great time doing that.
Well, you know, and you know, you play all over town and all around the country, and even back in your native Florida, you know, where you're originally from. You know, and I know starting out as a percussionist, as a drummer, as I first knew you when you got here to Nashville. But I found it interesting that your dad was a drummer, and so he kind of taught you initially and got you into the world of it.
He sure did. My parents are rock and roll parents, and they I'm very blessed for that. They took us to some great shows growing up. I got to see Paul McCartney and the Stones, Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young, and all these great acts when I was a kid, thanks to my parents. And then they raised us on great music. And my dad had a great old Ludwig drum set from 1974, and I just took to it so fast, and he helped me along the way for sure. And it was really great to have that opportunity.
You know, as a songwriter, singer, and a producer yourself, I mean, how did you make that evolution then into piano and guitar? Because I know now you predominantly write your original songs and do your co-writes on guitar.
Correct. Yeah, I started drums when I was 10, and I think around 15 or 16 is when I really wanted to try songwriting, because I was listening a lot, of course, and to a lot of great artists, and I was like, man, I really want to figure out how to do that. I still feel like songwriting is magic. You know, I feel like those songs are in the atmosphere, and some of us, we just can channel them down from the universe and bring them to life. And so I've always thought it was a magical thing, and that's why I'm like, well, if I'm going to write songs, I've got to learn how to play guitar. So that's when I picked up the guitar and then moved on to piano after that.
You know, and it's funny too now, John, because when you do a lot of your shows, you know, on the road and everything, and I'm sure you're going to get back to a lot of touring this year, but you're like a one-man band. And I'm listening to this new album and I'm going, I don't know how he's going to pull all this off as a one-man band, because you can certainly hear your influences from the Beatles and a lot of the other great bands that you grew up with, but also, you know, under the Americana label, I heard one or two songs in here that kind of sound country.
Yeah, I dabble in country, and I respect the art and I respect the genre very much. Rock and Americana and blues are more my wheelhouse, but every now and then I can stumble upon a nice little country hook. And I do write. I write with Craig Wilson. We pitch country stuff to other people as well. And so I do. I have my one-man band show where I use looping and effects and kind of make it sound like a bunch of instruments are playing at once. And then I do have two bands. I've got the Stones River Saints here with me in Nashville, and I have a band that called the Regulators down in Florida. So when I go down there, so I have two different bands I can do shows with as well.
It's so funny keeping up with you on social media. You stay so busy. But I wanted to ask you this. After listening to the whole album, John, and certainly, the title Salvation, and I like the cover and everything as well. What are you hoping that listeners of this album and when people come out and see you at live performances, what are you hoping they'll take away from Salvation?
Thanks, man. That's a great question. My goal is always to uplift people and inspire them. We're all going through something. Every human being has gone through something. A lot of us are going through something right now. We all have traumas we've dealt with. And I think music is the thing that can really heal people and bring us together and make us feel better. Even if it's just for one night, that's an amazing opportunity to have that blessing to be able to do that. And so that's my goal. I always want to make people feel good. I want to make them laugh. I want to make them feel happy and feel uplifted. And Salvation, the whole album became kind of a concept album about that, because it was after all the stuff we had to go through. We had to weather the storm, and go through all that stuff last year. And then it's like the end of one chapter and the start of a new chapter with this whole new beginning that we have now, which there's a lot of hope and optimism in the air. People are feeling it. People are excited about living life again and getting out and being with people and seeing live music. And it's a very exciting time. So that's kind of what the album became, this kind of documenting the end of one chapter and the start of something new, hopefully with optimism and hope.
Well, I think your positive message through your lyrics, I know that you wrote or co-wrote every song on this album, but I think it really comes through the lyrics and the songs, and they're uplifting and positive, and certainly all of your shows, you always take it on that way. I've got to ask you though, with your gigs here, I consider you a Nashville native. You've been here so long, to where you've shared the stage with like Peter Frampton and some of these other big artists. What has that been like?
Oh man, I'm a fan first and foremost. I'm a music fan and I love all these artists, and to get to meet these artists and actually play a show with them, it's just the greatest blessing ever. Peter Frampton was an amazing guy. He is an amazing guy, and he actually complimented me on my drumming and singing, and I was just blown away by that. I'm like, how could a legend actually think I'm good? The huge confidence booster.
Well, and speaking of high praise, Rolling Stone and No Depression have also praised your past albums. And I know, to me, Salvation is probably, one of the best albums you put out so far. And so it has to feel good, coming out with that. And in your spare time, which I don't think you have any, you're also helping other artists and producing other artists in and around Nashville too, right?
Correct. Yeah, I have a home studio, and I love being able to help other artists. A lot of times musicians and artists don't have a lot of money to spend, and I've invested in my studio for 20 years now, so I've gotten to a good place to where I can help them out and get them a great product for their budget. And if it's somebody I like, I'll work with them and I'll do anything I can for them. And I feel blessed to be able to do that. And I think it's
didn't you just launch a music project foundation production or something? Didn't you just come out with something new as well that you're heading up?
Yeah, I started a new corporation called Music First Productions Incorporated. And that's basically the blanket company for everything that I do. I'm also a booking agent. I do some bookings at Hop Springs and some other venues. And it's basically the blanket organization that houses everything that I do: my studio, my booking, my bands, my writing. So
just when you think being a multi-instrumentalist isn't enough, you need to have an umbrella for everything, right, John?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I feel blessed, man. It's always been my goal to learn as much as I can about the music business. And I went to MTSU. I got my degree in recording industry, music business. And so I've just always wanted to learn what it takes to do everything. And I've got a pretty good understanding of it now.
Well, speaking of which, you've been a house band, a house musician here and around Nashville. And I heard you've got a cool gig at the City Winery now that you're doing every Sunday. So if somebody wants to come out, and maybe, in between playing Beatles songs, you mix in a few of your own originals in here.
We're going to. My band wants to do that, so I'm very excited about that. We're going to do some of my stuff eventually at the Beatles brunch at City Winery, and it's really amazing. City Winery did a great job of being one of the first venues to open up and do safe shows as far back as late summer last year.
Mm-hmm.
And since I was one of the artists willing to work with them, they've returned the favor tenfold. So now they've given me opportunities like that, so now I get the monthly Beatles brunch there, and they let me do my album release there, which was such a blessing, amazing. I got to do that. So thankful.
Well, I tell you what, I will definitely be coming to the Sunday brunch because I love that venue here in Nashville, and any venues that support live music such as yourself, I'm always a fan of. But congratulations on the new album, Salvation. I want to make sure our viewers know, where they can go. Obviously, it's available on all streaming platforms, but I want to make sure they can follow you, get the music from you personally. I know you got CDs, and so where do they need to go, John?
Thank you, brother. It's johnsalaway.com. That's SALAWAY. If people forget my name, I always mention the song "Come Sail Away" by Styx, because when I was a kid, I thought they were saying John Salaway, John Salaway, John Salaway, and me. And my dad actually let me believe it. He's like, "Yeah, I wrote them a letter. I said, please write a song for my son." And I was like, "What?" It just blew my mind when I was so young. And so that stuck with me. So I tell people that to remember my name. It's johnsalaway.com, and Facebook at John Salaway Music.
Well, I always enjoy following you on all social media platforms and everything you're doing. But what a great album. I can't wait to see more singles roll out, maybe some videos, and obviously tours this year.
Yes, I have 2 more videos coming out. I did them at the studio in Nashville, which was really cool. And then Brian Rogers did one of them for me. And they should be coming out pretty soon. My publicists are looking at talking to some people about having them be a premiere in certain places. So looking at doing that first. And if that doesn't happen, I'll just release them in about a week or 2. So I'm excited to put them out, though. And actually, I did make a video for Letting Go Is the Hardest Part, the song that you like. So,
awesome. Well, I'll tell you what, man, all the songs are great. And congratulations once again on your brand new album that released this past April, Salvation. John Salaway, thank you so much for coming on the Rock Radio.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
I'll be catching you at City Winery.
I can't wait, brother. Thank you so much for having me on the show, man. I really appreciate this.
Sponsored by the Big 98, Nashville's #1 for new country and the home of a Bobby Bones Show.